And welcome back to part 7 of What If Midoriya had a combo of his mother and father's quirk. Last time we left off essentially with we'll call it the Gentle Criminal arc. It's the festival. It's the what is it called again? I got it right here. It's some sort of festival, and I cannot remember the school. It was the school festival. Before that, though, there would be one thing to talk about, is the Monoma scenario, where he sees that Deku's physical quirk is not matched for his body, similar to how his quirk isn't really matched to his body. We now know why, thanks to later on, because he's the UA trader, and he was given the quirk by One for All. Or One for All for One. Whereas given to him by him. And so, working on, specific moves, ironically, Izuku's already created a specific. He's already had several moves now that he's done, but one specific one is concentrating the fire into a small ball and basically just supercharged, like super concentrate plasma. But they still talk, they converse, and they still are able to bond in the same way they normally do. And let me get myself right up here. But then comes the Gentle Criminal arc. Now, I say arc. It's a school festival arc. Gentle Criminal is just the main antagonist. One thing that shows up very quickly is that All Might, noticing that Deku's starting to get the greater percentages of One for All down, he can now do the giant gust of wind or flick his finger and create a gust of wind. Well, obviously, he talks to Hatsume to get those gloves designed for him. However, with his fire-based quirk, that poses an interesting conundrum because he still wants to be able to use his fire-based quirk. So what she's ultimately done is use a combination of the gloves that are normally on his costume and outfit them in a way where not only can he still release the the gas that comes out of his fingers, maybe he's still got like a round canister around his wrist for these gloves, but he can also fire off the air bullets and in a bit more of a concentrated fashion. And if he practices with it, he can actually do just concentrate, just basically shooting fireballs, just poo, 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 like that. Because obviously, with enough fire and enough wind can just snuff out a fire, absolutely. But conversely, wind in air is also what fuels fire, and that's why billows are so important for keeping a furnace going. At least old school furnaces, because air and oxygen are what cause fire to burn. So Deku would have to practice with the concentration, but in essence, he could make a supercharged fire bullet, and that'd be pretty cool. Along the way, obviously, he meets up with Gentle Criminal and Labrava, and they have their confrontation. Now, I do see this confrontation, sadly, for anyone wondering, going about the same. The reason I see that happening is because Deku, if he really wanted to, could have just tried to end Gentle right there. And I say end, I mean break him so he can't move, but he saw the person Gentle as just wanting to be proven. Like, if we look at how the fight really goes down, it starts off with Deku charging him. Gentle uses his, I can't remember if it's called soft, elasticity. That's the name of his quirk. Whatever I touch, it grants elasticity. Even the air itself, which is actually, even though he failed to be a hero, a pretty powerful quirk. Deku would still charge in. The question obviously comes down to whether or not he uses fire at all against Gentle, because his fire is going to be far more destructive and harmful, not only to his opponent, but also to the area around him, and he doesn't necessarily want to destroy the area around him. I will say this: when Gentle causes the steel beam to fall on Deku, and Deku catches it, and then Deku fires, obviously, he fires off the blast initially. I think this is where he uses his fire. He doesn't use it in the overall fight to attack Gentle. He uses it to keep Gentle isolated to one location. So, example, when Gentle is running off from the attack, from their initial confrontation, Izuku's holding the steel beam. He just suddenly is looking on, and he just kind of, and luckily because of his quirk, he doesn't need his hands. I liken it to Byakuya Zembo Zakura, really enough. He even says, I don't need my hands to move my Zenbo Zakura's pedals, but if I do, they're twice as fast. That's basically how this works. He doesn't need his hands to move his fire around, but if he is and he can direct it more effectively, it moves faster, it moves more fluidly, it's got more accuracy. And so he's holding it there, but he can't move. It's like, well, how did he put it? Hold on. What was the line of dialogue exactly that that Gentle said? That plan went slightly awry, La Brava, and yet should I manage to get in now, despite high security, my name will truly go down in infamy as a man capable of a great spectacle. And and all of a sudden he just sees this fire. It's like, what? And then he sees Midoriya holding his finger there, just and just fires the shot. Persistent. And so, Deku's kind of putting it to him a little bit here. Definitely he's causing Gentle problems, to say the least. And again, Midoriya is just coming in, hitting him with gusts of air. He's just keeping. When they get to the force, Midoriya's literally got the fire just surrounding them. And Gentle, for all of his capabilities, in theory, he could use elasticity on fire. Theoretically, if he can use it on air, he should be able to use it on fire. But the problem just is, you can't touch fire without getting burned. And even then, how is he really going to... What is that going to do? Midoriya still can manipulate his fire. If anything, you've technically solidified fire, which is not magma, much, but fire. So it's like, what happens if you solidify lightning? You make crystal lightning with the same... I did that as a Keke Toda for the Keke Toda video I did one time. A while back, the crystallized lightning, solidified lightning, that still acts like lightning, but you can hold it. It's just a frightening concept when you take something that has no physical form in that sense and suddenly give it physical form. But again, Midoriya is not using his fire to hurt Gentle. That wouldn't be on the cards if he could help it. Ultimately, it's their fight still goes down. La Brava uses her love-based quirk, and the long and short of it is he ends up putting Gentle down. Not quite for the count, but generally because he wasn't really down for the count anyway. And so the day is saved. He gets chewed out for what he did after the fact. But more importantly, folks, we have the most important thing in this entire video to get to. And that is the school performance. Oh, yes. The Class 1A's song and dance performance. Now, does that matter at all? Well, actually, it does to a little girl who needs some cheering up, to Eri. Like, she needs to be able to get rid of that overhaul guy from that. She just, look how happy she looks. Can you see that, guys? Look how happy she is. But not that it really matters for the context of the grand story, but because he has a quirk that can actually do something, I imagine him and Todoroki could work out, and maybe even Monoma could work out a combination, because he can control his fire. He can create shapes and forms. So he's probably also doing pyrotechnics along with Todoroki and Kaminari and all that. So I could see, fire shapes. He's maybe even learned to solidify them, almost looking completely just smooth. Like, let's say he creates a bird, instead of being like a fiery phoenix, it could just look like a bird with some flames coming off it. Like, he's concentrating the flame even more, basically creating plasma. Maybe like fish flying through giant rings of fire or something. Like, he could do a whole bunch of stuff. But, we've got something else to deal with now. And that is the dream he has. He sees the past, what happened in the past with All for One and One for All. How it came to be, and he awakens because he had hit 20%. Now, this is the big thing. First off, we're in the joint training arc. The long and short of it, we're just going to skip all the way to Midoriya's, because there's no point in focusing on anything else. Which is one of my favorite arcs, by the way. I just like, combat arcs like that. Kind of tournament style, but not quite. But the point here is the question of Black Whip, Float, Danger Sense, Fog, Fajin, Gear Shift. All these quirks that are currently inside of Midoriya. Is he capable of... First off, would they awaken at all? Or would they just not? Now, I had to read the book, I had to go on the wikis, I had to basically look into everything I could about why it happened before I made my final judgment on this. And looking into it, there shouldn't be any reason the Midoriya wouldn't unlock the quirk still. The way it is explained by Banjo. One second here. Oh, wrong one. The way it's explained by Banjo here is this. Let's see. As for the power to still explode, okay. Our quirk factors were mixed into the core of this power. They've been inside this whole time. That teeny core, that small center within the raging flame or crashing waves, whatever it is you see, that's the source wrapped up within all the accumulated power. And now, after all this time, it's starting to grow and kick. You've caught glimpses in between those flickering flames, right? You've seen it all. It's growing. Just now, let's see here. Listen, when you use the power of anger, it'll start to react. It's okay. So basically, yeah, that's the real explanation here just seems to be that after all these years of just kind of building up power and all that, it just finally was time. It had nothing to do with the fact, as far as I can tell, that he was quirkless. The reason he wielded One for All as well as he did back in the original is because he was quirkless. Because that's what happened with All. That's why All Might wielded it for so long, because he was quirkless. It wasn't burning him out. Now, again, keep in mind, Midoriya isn't quirkless here, which means it is still burning him out. But, given the length of time Midoriya had it versus everyone else who had it, including the fourth user. The fourth user, who just went off, trained, and died of old age in his early 40s. Between those two, Midoriya should still be fine in terms of his lifespan. I mean, he's probably not going to live to be like 80 or 90, but 60s to late 70s, early 70s at most, which would still be a solid life lived, but just wouldn't be like the lifespan a lot of other people have. Because Midoriya had it among the shortest time of any of the users. And hell, I mean, now granted, you have all those quirks on top of that, it's still going to be very taxing on his body, no doubt. Still, we would basically just go all the way to that training to that scene in the original, where, you know, he's about to shoot an attack of One for All, a giant air gust, and all of a sudden his fire goes haywire. This is the best I can create for this, by the way. I want to do at least something different. His fire's going haywire, and his and Black Whip's coming out. Now, his fire is like, he's trying maybe to use his fire to try to contain this somewhat, but it's just not working very well. And so he would again have the conversation with Bancho. He would, eventually get woken up because he says, "Shinso, I challenge you, Grandma Midoriya, bring it on!" And so, obviously, after that fact, the quirk dissipates. He wakes up. Monoma comes in. Did I say Monoma for? Okay, it's not Monoma. It's Aoyama, I believe is his name. But Monoma comes in, snags the quirk. Obviously, Shinso and him are kind of duking out a little bit too. He's not using, obviously, Black Whip, or he can't use the Air Blast, but he can still use his fire-based quirk. He's using that to kind of like keep Shinso on guard. Obviously, Monoma comes in, throwing off, trying to use One for All. It's like, did he snag One for All? Nope, did not snag One for All. But it's like, yeah, but in watching the Midoriya, you think you're the only one who can use fire now? And then just, it's like, huh? It's like, sorry, it took a while to get, Midoriya actually swears, sorry, it took a while for me to learn to get my fire this big. And just throws fireballs, which Midoriya's just like, boop. And then him and Shinso more or less duke it out to the end. Now, at this point, he and Bako and All Might would try to be training to get Black Whip to show up again, but it's not really working. Like, he's still using his fire quirk to try it out. He's also kind of using his fire quirk in the way he used Black Whip to see if he can get a similar feeling, but nothing. After that, though, it's really the League of Villain arc at that time, and it takes a while for us to get back into the story. And honestly, I thought it'd be going on longer, but yeah, we'll get back to the story of Midoriya a little later on. Well, a little later, obviously we will. Until then, though, because there's really not much to talk about, because now it's the Redestro, it's the League of Villains stuff. And until you basically get to the war arc, there's not a lot going on for Midoriya. Once you get into the war arc and him fighting Shigaraki to a degree, that's when you really start to get back into him. And then you get to the Vigilante Deku arc, you get to the final war arc, you get all that stuff. Until then, though, that's part 7. Until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. I'll see you next time.